We can meet up on the rendezvous.
Darling, put on your dancing shoes.
Hey.
Never feel like you can't come through.
WEFM, the new fresh sound.
Rise and shine. Let's get ready to take on the day. Activated Mornings on WEFM 99.9 is on now.
Welcome back, St. Vincent and the Grenadines. The time is now 9:21, and this is our open forum, or Talk to Me If You May, where you call in, you text us, we talk about whatever you want to discuss. The number to call is 457-9997.
You're so fast.
And also, God, the shift done.
You're hungry?
I'm hungry. Well, yeah, the number to call is 457-9997. Also, the number to WhatsApp, 457-9997, where you can also place calls. We're live on YouTube and Facebook at WFM99SVG. Now, there's a story that it was on our morning news this morning. I hear talking, and now I can't find the morning news. Okay, never mind, I found it. It was a mother in the U.S. Virgin Islands who was arrested for tasing her child. Now, the story reads that a female minor were reported to police in the U.S. Virgin Islands that her mother assaulted her, resulting in the woman's arrest last week. According to a report, the minor stated that during an argument with her mother utilized a taser and shocked her approximately 3 times in her upper torso. The minor was taken to the Schneider Regional Medical Center for treatment on March 15th. The mother, who is 37 years old, agreed to turn herself in to the domestic violence unit. She was booked, processed, and turned over to the Bureau of Corrections pending her advice of rights hearing scheduled for March 18th. That was yesterday. The case is currently under investigation by the USVI Domestic Violence Unit. And it begs the question, how far is too far when disciplining a child? Well, obviously a taser is too far. Yeah. But call us, tell us, 457-9997. WhatsApp us, 457-9997, where you can also place your calls. If you're not in the country, you don't want to spend up international rates, you can call us via WhatsApp. But what are your thoughts, Roleza?
All right. So growing up in the Caribbean, you always say anything come to my hand, you're getting it.
Hey.
Parents love to tell you that. Mothers love to tell you that. Anything come to my hand, and they love fling thing to it. That's the other thing. But I do think that there are times when parents do take it too far. Using a taser is ridiculously too far. Because that is something that you would use to subdue a person, especially somebody who is bigger than you. And I can't imagine a child.
It's possible.
Yeah, the child could be bigger than their parents, yes. But do you need to use? To me, that's
excessive force. You don't need. That is excessive force.
That's excessive force, right? But I am, so yes, I grew up in the generation of licks, sharing. I probably didn't get as much, but I grew up in the generation of licks, sharing. But me personally, I do not think that in all instances that physical discipline needs to be administered, right? I think that, and we have a call, so let's take the call before I finish. Hi, caller, good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
I personally don't think you're supposed to beat anybody.
Mm.
If you start beating children, you're teaching them to beat other people.
Yeah, but what about the Bible?
I don't believe in the Bible, boss.
Oh,
I applaud your self-control. This morning.
Don't go there.
All right.
Don't go there.
All right.
I'm talking about personality.
Mm-hmm.
People who learn from what they see. If I start beating you as a youth, as a kid, because you do something wrong, what am I teaching you? Is that when you grow up, anybody who do something wrong, your only alternative is to beat or to hit. And that's what we teach in children today. We need to come out of that system of beating slavery system. Stop beating your children. Sit your child down and talk to them properly. Show them from your example how to live. That's the only how they're going to learn. Then kids between the age of 1 and 5, as far as I remember when I learned, that is the most critical years of a child life. If you teach them how to retaliate by hitting, beating, and all that stuff, is what they learn, and that's going to take them through their life. I grew up seeing things that I should not have seen as a youth, and I had to fight myself not to repeat, because I've learned now that what I saw when I was a youth, no human's supposed to go through that. Nobody's supposed to do that to anybody. So the hitting, we always say, oh, yeah, you're
Spade your ass while you child.
really try. Yeah, and that's the worst thing out. You know they had a thing where they call it slave Bible. Do you know that?
No, I didn't.
Look it up. Look it up, and you'll see all that we say now is in the slave Bible.
Okay.
I have my own reservations about the
Please,
Bible,
please,
but I ain't gonna say it on air. My grandmother beat me.
please don't beat your child. Please don't beat your child. Don't teach your child to hit nobody. I'm asking people, and people who go to school because their child do something wrong and they want to beat the teacher, because when you're teaching the child is that there's no boundary, there's no limits to your action.
All right.
You could do anything, and it's okay. That's why we have so much violence and so much shit. Excuse me, language. So much thing happening in the country, in the world, not just in Vincent, because all we do is teach to retaliate. We don't teach to have conversations and dialogue and things like that. So please.
All right.
That's all I'm
Thank
saying.
you.
All right.
All right.
All right. So
go ahead.
I disagree with that call. All right.
All
I'll
of
try
it?
to do it. Most of it. I'll try to respond in like under 2 minutes, 3 minutes. But first of all, the slave Bible is the Bible in which they excluded parts of the Old Testament where slaves were freed, and for obvious reasons.
Okay.
But I do think that bringing up that beating is a reflection of slavery and that sort of thing. I do think that we need to remove ourselves from the branding. I know it was the most recent one, but we need to remove ourselves from the branding that only black people were slaves. The Japanese had Chinese slaves, Macedonians had Persian slaves, the Vikings had British slaves. So slavery isn't a new concept, and it's not a concept that only black people were slaves. But in raising a child, you have to allow them to.
So before you move on to that point, but in relation to black slavery, beating was a form of submission. Was the same
in all
beating,
slavery?
It happened. Well, I don't know.
I honestly think the worst piece of slavery and occupation was done by the Vikings, because the Vikings, the British did eventually convert some of them to Christianity, but a lot of them were just raping and murdering people. They were heartless, they were ruthless people. Okay. So the British, the Dutch, the French, the Spanish, they were doing it for a profit. The Vikings were doing it for doing its sake. What is more ruthless and evil than that? Now, I'm not discounting that slavery is horrible, and it was a horrible experience for West African Caribbean people, both in UK, Canada, and the US. Oh, and Latin America, of course. Not taken away from that at all, but I hate that we tend to make it our entire identity. Or you remember slavery? There are other parts of black history that did not include slavery, and I know it's a large population, but remember, slavery included West Africa, and Africa is the biggest continent in the world. Yeah,
as well, so right.
Africa is the biggest continent in the world. There's North Africa, East Africa, South Africa, Central Africa that did not experience any of that. that actually have more proud history than slavery.
It's
But-
just interesting, but okay.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So that's my personal view.
Yes.
I'm not posting my view
mhm.
on others. I just share my personal view on slavery and the reference of slavery generally, right? Now, when it comes to punishing a child, now I do think that people need to forget. I mean, people do forget that the spare the rod spoil the child. The rod can be figuratively speaking. The rod doesn't mean you get a piece of stick and beat your
But you
child.
see, it depends on somebody's level of education because they
Yes.
may take it literally.
Yes.
Right?
No, obviously, you're not supposed to take a taser to your child. And there are a lot
What
of
about a rod?
practices.
What about
but
a
not
rod?
even a rod. There are a lot of practices we used to have here in the Caribbean where that bull pistol, hanger, pelting iron after
Wire.
your child, all kind of wire,
electrical wires.
anything come to
Yeah.
your hand, you're pelting after your plate, all kind of thing. I show people could tell you stories. I know somebody that get a leather belt and it cut their leg, the force from the lash
Yeah,
cut their leg.
sissy belts.
But
Whale up your skin is whale.
but if you see a child reaching for a hot surface and you, hey, don't do that. You're teaching them, okay, if I do that, the result of that is pain. They don't have to physically burn their hands to realize that. You're supposed to enforce that in a way. You can't always use conversation, especially in raising a child. You can't say to a 1 to 3 year old, hey, you're not supposed to break these plates. Hey, when you take out the peanut butter, don't drag it on the floor. They're not going to understand that. They're going to react to, if I do that, it's going to result in pain. Let me not do that. But I don't agree with you're teaching people to react violently when there's something in the future, because there are a lot of Caribbean people, and I have to use Caribbean people because we know what licks is. There are a lot of Caribbean people that were beaten as children, that they don't beat their children, and they're some of the most reserved people when it comes to conflict resolution or any conflict at all. When conflict comes their way, they step away from it. It doesn't necessarily mean that because someone is beaten means that they're going to then be a violent person.
All right, it's a lot in this one conversation.
I know.
All right, so one of the things that you said, now there's a difference between spanking for me
And beating.
and abuse. Abuse is the word I want to use.
Abuse
right?
is where we need to stay.
Right. Okay, so
far away from, but yeah, let's take the call
and then,
quickly.
Hi, caller. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning. I was calling the radio station.
Okay, you're on air. You're on air.
You're
live.
on there, yeah.
Okay. I'm calling all the way from Sheba.
Okay.
And you leave out coconut broom, you get licks with coconut broom and bull pistol.
Bull pistol. I said bull pistol.
Yeah. And leather belt and the belt head.
I'm belt head.
Yeah.
Oh,
belt head.
Yeah, belt head.
Belt head.
And broomstick.
Broom. Oh, I don't forget broomstick.
Well, we say rod. That's a rod too.
Yeah, I forget broomstick.
Yeah. They go for the top brand whip, and that is last real hard.
Yeah.
But Carla,
Yeah.
you're speaking from experience, right? Being on the other end of the the broomsticks and the tamarind whip, etc. Do you think
Yes,
that?
please, Cheryl.
Do you think that
Cheryl.
because of that, you've approached conflict or situations in a violent manner?
Or has it made you a better person, I
No.
suppose, as well too?
Yeah.
Well,
Listen, no.
it made me a better person because I get licks with a lot of them back home. Yeah, I get licks with a lot of them home. I get punishment. I go underneath the bed to hide, but they still find me.
So like my childhood. I remember one
You're
time my
running.
sister locked herself in a suitcase.
But you had to come on side at some point. I don't understand. You run and take your licks one time, you go cool off.
You're
That's the other
thinking
thing,
as
you
a
just
child,
cool
you
off.
think they escape. You think they go cool out.
Yeah, because they didn't figure out they don't see right, so they
Yeah.
figure that you're underneath the bed and they find you. Yeah.
All right.
All right, caller.
All right, caller. All right.
All right, you're welcome.
All right. So it's licks for me. It's discipline and abuse. And I think in many instances, what has happened with us in the Caribbean, it was abuse, right?
Mhm.
And I have to draw the reference to put up licks. When your parents start to beat you, and then they start to name out all the things that you have done wrong over maybe like a 4 months period, and you're getting. So every time they say a word, remember when you do this, and every lashes for everything that they remember that you would have done within that period of time, right? So we have to be careful with the put up lick situation, because I think that many times it comes from a place of anger and vengeance, as opposed to a place of, let's say, I'm disciplining you for what it is that you would have done wrong, right? There's another thing that when I look at discipline, and when I'm using the word abuse in this case, because there are instances to when I wonder, does it actually make the person a better person? Or is it fair of, if I do something, I'm not able to, let's say, justify my actions in words, I'm going to be beaten, right? Is it a place of, do I love my parents for what they have done, or am I afraid of my parents? And in that regard, what is the lines of communication like with that child? Because if I know that if I say something to you, it's going to probably result in a slap, then I'm probably not going to be as open with you in terms of communicating with you on certain things, you know? So does it actually create that open level of communication, or do I end up fearing my parent, right? Because you even see adults, sometimes they hear the voice of their parents talking to them in a stern way, and instantly they're frightened. Adults, you frightened.
Boy, I afraid my mother. Me ashamed to say I afraid my mother to this day.
Right?
The other day on the phone, my mother living in New York. I on the phone with my mother, and I slip up and said something, and immediately, mommy, sorry, that was a mistake. Sorry. I afraid my mother to this day. But I do think that the excessive beatings, not necessarily like right where on the border of abuse, I think that does draw the line in when it comes to you having a proper relationship with your parent.
I think when I look at it, like even in the instances with my niece, like I think I probably only slapped my niece like once in her entire life, and that's because
she smacked or slapped?
Slapped her, right? And that was because, man, that was because she was blatantly lying about something, right? And I realized that I did it in anger, not necessarily to correct what she did, but I did it in anger. But in terms of other areas of discipline, like for me, the easiest thing to is deny her something. Listen, take away the charger from a child, or take away the device, and you would see how quickly they get this, they act together, because you know it's almost like a part of their connection or their identity, being able to use the devices. So take those away. You know, so I think sometimes for parents, you have to find creative ways of disciplining a child, as opposed to necessarily thinking that the first thing has to be beaten, right? I also do think that in some cases, persons don't know how to resolve conflicts, and you have to remember that you're dealing with different individuals. So whereas Licks might work with Ari, right, it may not work with another individual who feels that they have to toughen up about everything, and the first time that you hit me, I'm going to retaliate by striking you. So you have to also be mindful of the child that you're raising, because you don't know what type of child they're going to turn out to be in adult stages, right? So I think I think you have to know your child, you have to know what works. But I think too many Caribbean parents don't know the difference between discipline and abuse, disciplining for the point of correction, or disciplining bordering on abuse coming out from anger as opposed to correction.
That I wholeheartedly agree with. Earlier the caller said that he does not believe in any form of beating, and he did tie it into slavery. But we have a response here on WhatsApp.
I have to say that I disagree with that caller, because the Bible tells you that spare the rod, you spoil the child. And the Bible says train up a child in the way they should grow, that when they're old, they will not depart from it. Discipline is a very, very necessary and relevant thing for the training of a child. So whether in school, at home, or wherever, it is necessary to discipline a child. If it's by beating them, flogging them, whatever, I strongly believe in that, because I'm not saying abuse your child. I'm saying discipline your child. You know, some people may be against it because some parents would abuse their children. But I think that discipline in the form of flogging your child is very important. You know, so you gotta train up your child, because this is biblical. The Bible tells you that, and I strongly believe that we should follow this.
Interesting.
All right. All right, let's see another comment here.
Water hose bending too.
Beating with a water hose?
Bending too.
My Lord.
You never
I've
see
never
that?
heard about the water hose.
Yeah,
no.
the bendy water hose. So it's like it's stiffish and licks for you. That's why my mother used to do that. Why don't accuse me, sure, but I've seen it.
All right. Some people say had their parents not done that, they would have ended up in prison.
Yep, people believe, but as Roleza said, it depends on the child because the same punishment wouldn't work for everybody else.
All right, let's see.
You know,
That's the same
sometimes
person
too,
I
right?
called in.
Parents just tell children like this. I give you life and I can take your life if you don't listen what I say.
Yep.
I brought you here, I can take you out. That's the famous expression. Very famous expression. All right. So, all right. Hi, caller.
Right.
Good morning.
It's the last call for the morning, unfortunately. Good morning, caller. You live?
Yeah, I just listened to that guy who said that he believes in the Bible that you're supposed to beat your child or flag your child. I want to ask a question to people who beat the children. What level, who decide what, is it 1 lash, 2 lash, 3 lash? What level? I work in juvenile detention. I work there. I've seen where kids who come to that place I've seen a kid who actually killed his mother because she beat him. I know that it probably never happened in St. Vincent. I'm living in America. I've seen too many things about the beating thing. This thing about beating, please don't continue this thing anymore. Figure out somehow you could actually talk to your child. I have a daughter. I have never hit her once. Never hit her once. And she loved me. We have good conversation. We talk about everything. Anything, everything. That's what I want people to understand. You allow your child to grow so they could understand how they should live in the world that they're going to live in. Not your world, their world. People want children to live in their world. Oh, you do this wrong. Boop, boop, boop. Without explaining why you're hitting the child. I got hit when I was a young person, but I was never even told why I was hit. Oh, you do something wrong. Bye. You do something wrong. Nobody never tell me what was wrong. So if you're going to hit me, at least, even if you're going to hit me, let me say that, right? I think you should be able to be woman enough, a man enough, to explain to me why you're hitting me.
I don't disagree with that.
So I could know that I cannot go back and do that same thing because the punishment is going to be harsh.
All right.
Please. All right. I know you have to run. So, but please stop the hitting business, man. It's only going on and on and on, and it's destroying people. Please stop hitting.
All right. Thank you. All right. He's making an interesting point there. Like, I remember getting a slap, Big Junior Calypso, from my mother. And to this day, I don't even know what the slap was for, To this day, morning, mommy.
I do think I do think you should explain to the child why they're being punished or what's the reason. But it is a 9:44, soon to be 9:45 here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and we're gonna make room for a community dateline this morning.
WEFM